So a new person has entered the arena of the slandering of Ed Piskor and memory holding, the crisis that led to his tragic end, as well as the continual sweeping of the accusers, the lies, slander, and information that is clouding the real story here. A girl by the name of Claire Napier recently wrote an article. Well, I'm going to call it an article. She calls it an article, but I don't know exactly who she writes for. I don't even care. I just know that she put it out there, and she's gotten a lot of attention over doing what the comic industry pros do, which is slandering, continuing to slander Ed. And make no mistake, this is a comic industry thing. This is not a few people here or there. The comic industry in general has aligned themselves with this narrative of Ed Piskor having quote unquote bad behavior that led to his own actions and him choosing to end his life, ignoring the circumstances that led to him making that choice because of how deep and how overwhelming the outside forces were. But let me not mumble on about this. Let's just go on to Claire Napier, who, as you said, wrote about a quote unquote cartoonist who died. Yeah, it died. And how I think we should start to handle remembering them. Interesting choice of pronouns. This is the article in question, and the red is some corrections that she made, or rather some clarifications, which is irrelevant to the conversation we're having here, but I'm just letting you know that's what the red stands for. But as you can see, just how she starts it off, we're talking about how, if you're suicidal, perhaps you shouldn't read this article. And I'm not assuming that she's being insensitive here, but it kind of does come across that way. So somehow she gave herself the authority to do a history lesson on who Ed Piskor was, and talking about his days in school. But she writes all that just to make this point here. She tries to offer her own analytical, quote unquote, analytical breakdown of why Piskor led to his own self deletion, bringing up his depression and isolation and uh, apparent self harm as if these are the reasons why Ed self deleted. Again, ignoring the other stuff, which we'll get into in a bit. But she somehow appointed herself as some kind of like mental health specialist, dissecting Ed's behavior and his previous choices. So yeah, so that's the reason why Ed self deleted, because he was just a depressed man. He was a man with a intent of self harm, isolation, a man who didn't think he was good enough for people. So she gives this dissertation on Ed's history, but completely and totally ignores all the events that happened up until his passing, which includes not just the slander, the self-admitted slander by both Molly Dwyer and Molly Wright regarding their selective screenshots of DMs that they've had with him, and in Molly Wright's case, her own distorted version of her sexual encounter with Ed, with whom Ed confirmed in his final letter that, yeah, they both had consensual sex, and she didn't deny the consensual part. So what was her end game in putting that stuff out there other than to make the guy look really bad at his lowest point in his life? And then she's talking about, their Frederick Wertham can eat a dick shirt. Like, all of that matters. Like, any of this matters regarding the final moment of his life. Like, all of this just has no relevance to what happened to Ed in his final days. And this right here, this is the part that got Claire Napier in trouble. When she says, when Piskor signed off in public life with one last bitter missive, he sexualized a woman who had objected to his prior sexualization of her, rejected his sexual interests, his classification of his behavior towards them, used familiar misogyny. I can't read this. I can't read this without laughing, because she actually wrote this with the intent of being serious, as if she was sparking intellectual and honest conversation here. None of this is honest. None of any of this is genuine. This is all the same usual gaslighting, anti-male feminist rhetoric to undermine the slander and the hateful methodical attack on the guy with the DMs and the isolation, which led to Ed's father being doxxed by Marcia Cipriani of Pittsburgh, and and losing his jobs, business opportunities, being removed from the Cartoonist Kayfabe YouTube channel, like all of these things, on top of the fact that Ramon Villalobos and Alex the Campy and a bunch of these other guys that he named in his final note all had a hand in pressuring him behind the scenes and really twisting the knife that led to him ultimately making his final decision. Like a lot of these things, Claire wants to leave out because as a woman, she doesn't understand that when a man is slandered, when a man's character is tainted in the public's eye, regardless of any evidence or lack thereof, his life is over. His life is done for. I mean, look what's going on with Dr. Disrespect, you know? And again, Dr. Disrespect didn't really do himself any favors with the wording of his tweet, but no evidence of any wrongdoing as far as any legalities, no evidence of what he said to anybody or any of us pointed out. And he's lost deals, he's lost money, business opportunities. Disrespect is done for. Yeah, he's done for as well. Now he hasn't taken the drastic step of self-deleting, but regardless, he can never go back to his regular life. He can never go back to what he had before. That's gone. That is absolutely 100% gone, what he had. So if you think he was guilty, if you think he isn't guilty of what he's being accused of, regardless of any of that, his life in that he had before is done. It's gone. There is not going to be any more Dr. Disrespect live streams or content because his name has now become synonymous with what he's being accused of. And that's all it takes for a man to lose his life, whether in the financial sense or in the literal sense. And Ed Piskor faced the kind of pressure and judgment on a scale that no human being was made to face. We were not meant to be held in judgment by thousands of people in the absence of evidence, on top of having your livelihood taken away from you and being stigmatized in your own tribe. That's what happened to Ed, and a lot of men that have gone through that have either faced similar choices or have continued living a life in destruction. This is the thing that Claire Napier does not want to touch on because it totally undermines the rest of her thesis here. Because what happened with Ed during his life up until he became famous as the Cartoonist Kayfabe, none of that really matters because that's who he is as a person. There are many people that deal with isolation and depression, but they don't end up self-deleting unless something happens in their life that, as I stated before, twists the knife or adds the salt to the wound. In this case with Ed Piskor, he faced that. He absolutely faced a tremendous blow to his life. And he had only one other recourse to take. But there was nothing misogynistic about what he said. And again, she fails, Claire does, to acknowledge that Molly Dwyer selected the screenshots that she put out there. And those screenshots didn't make her look innocent either. And screenshots of her Instagram that she deleted shows that she dressed provocatively, that she dressed the slut lifestyle. And I'm not saying that Molly Dwyer was a slut, but the way she dressed and presented herself on Instagram didn't really give people doubt about it. So I don't know her from the hole in the wall, but I can only judge a person based on how they present themselves online. And Molly Dwyer was not a saint by any stretch of the imagination. Molly Wright also herself putting out those selective DMs of her own. And I dissected their DMs in separate videos. So if you go on my channel, you can see what I said about each girl and their DMs in their respective videos that I did about them. And I showed that there was absolutely no wrongdoing committed by Ed in any of the situations. And yet he was canceled and ultimately destroyed over those false accusations and implications, not just by those girls and people that were close to those girls, but by comic book quote-unquote professionals, people like Ramon Villalobos, who's a known racist, or Alex the Campy, a known male-hating bigot. And yet these are the people that somehow had enough influence to push Ed to the final edge. Claire says at the bottom, Piskor spoke about a mob as having murdered him and also asked the people reading a note, which remains online, to punish a range of specifically named people. He cannot have it both ways. He's either not forced into action out of nowhere, blameless and inert on his own. Again, Claire completely ignores why there was a mob. The mob was there because they judged him in the absence of evidence over false accusations put out there based on selective screenshots by Molly Dwyer and Molly Wright, both of whom had gone into hiding because they know they fucked up. Also having Marcy Cipriani of the Pittsburgh News doxing Ed's father and asking him questions. And mind you, Marcy Cipriani never went over to any of Molly Dwyer or Molly Wright's family members and asked them questions because that's what a real reporter does. A real journalist would actually go to all parties involved and get all the information before forming a proper story. But she didn't do that. And while I don't condone any type of mob mentality, any mob tactics, I don't feel bad for Cipriani either because her own actions is the reason why she is in the predicament that she's in now. Same thing with Molly Dwyer and Molly Wright. Both of their actions and predicaments are of their own doing. And may neither of those two girls, the two Mollys, may they never ever have a career in comics. And Claire doesn't want to address that. She doesn't want to put that out there. So now she's rightfully getting heat. And she's getting heat by, of all places, Ed Piskor's own sister, Justine. And she's finally now starting to become more vocal in the defense of her brother's name. Claire wrote on a tweet, she says, obviously related tangent, but it's happened before as well. When you're mad at someone because you're personally involved in the situation they're criticizing, you should introduce yourself as you begin to engage with them, or you seem incredibly wild. To which Justine replied, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Ed Piskor's sister, the dead guy you decided to name drop for some sort of clout and post nothing but false information. I didn't go searching. I stumbled across a poorly written Google Doc. Stop dancing on my brother's grave. And I rarely talk about Justine or Bobby or any of Ed's family members because I get it. It's it's their fight, and it's already hard for them to have to relive this because you got vipers like Claire Napier or Ramon Villalobos or Alex DeCampi has hardly mentioned Ed since his passing, probably because she doesn't want to have all that negative energy directed at her well-deserved negative energy, I may add. But the comic industry is full of these vipers, and I think that Justine and Piskor's and the Piskor family, I think it's becoming harder for them to stay silent because more and more of these vipers continue to come out and continue to sweep under the rug the real story of what happened with Ed Piskor and the slander that his accusers put out there that ultimately damaged his legacy and his name. And Justine on an Instagram page, her story, she actually admitted that she has screenshots. She has screenshots of Molly Wright. And look, I get it. I don't think that Justine or Bobby or any of Piskor's family members want to spend their days having to defend against the continual slander and the false information that's put out there by these hateful people. I'm pretty sure they want to spend their days mourning, grieving, moving forward to try to restore his good name and put out his artwork out there and redirect that legacy to that, as opposed to the unfortunate final moments of his life. If you actually go to the Ed Piskor Legacy page on Instagram, Justine posted the final hours of her ordeal up until finding out that her brother passed away. You could literally feel each second that she posted the anxiety that was building within her. And yeah, you could really feel that pain there. So you figured with the pain that she's going through of reliving that moment in her head every day, possibly for the rest of her life. On top of that, with people like Claire Napier slandering Ed Piskor with the continual lies, the same type of lies that Molly Wright, Molly Dwyer, Ramon Villalobos, Alex DeCampi, and all these other vipers put out there. It's going to be a never-ending fight for the Piskor family to grieve and mourn while fighting off against the forked tongue of these reptiles and what they're continually doing. But yeah, look, if you're a fan of Piskor and you like the cartoonist kayfabe content, just follow the Piskor Legacy page on Instagram and see what they will continually put out more conventions. I'm sure there's going to be exhibitions and galleries with artwork put out there. And ultimately, that's what we should be discussing is the artwork, the content that creators like Piskor had put out there, and there is less focus on content and less focus on uh, material put out by creators, and more on the drama and the insidious stuff that precedes them or that surrounds them. And I think that part of that is why the comic industry and the comic environment in general is on the decline, because we're focusing less on the characters and the content and more on the people involved and their politics and their attempt to try to brainwash you because you don't want to accept someone's pronouns and all that stuff. And I know I'm veering away from that a little bit, but I mean, I'm veering away from the topic of the video with that. But the point I'm trying to make is, yeah, it's unfortunate that instead of focusing on Piskor's legacy and the artwork that he's created and produced over the years, instead of focusing on that, we have to focus on that as an aside to the bigger issue, which is the continual slander. So it's going to be a never-ending battle, because this is what the comic industry, or rather the terminally ill corpse of the comic industry, is going to be riding on, which is that Ed had behavioral problems, and that's why he chose to self-delete. Not the fact that these vipers aided and abetting in slandering a man at his lowest after he lost his livelihood, lost his job, and was ostracized and stigmatized, not just from his tribe, but from an online mob that was hundreds of times the size of the local tribe he was a part of. Again, a kind of stress that no man, or a kind of burden no man was meant to have or tackle, but it happened with him, and well, again, you know how it ended. So that will always be part of the story that is told with Piskor, in addition to the artwork he's put out there. But again, you the fans who are who are admirers and appreciators of his work, as well as the work of any comic creator, it is up to you to send the message that we want the good stuff. We want the good stories, the good art, the quality stuff. We want what we like Roy Thomas said in an interview with Comics Journal 61, when he talked about he may not know what art is, but he know what he likes. He knows what he likes, and you guys know what you like. You like the kind of comics you like, the kind of artwork you like, the kind of creators you like, and no one should shame you for that. And there's no shame in saying that you're a fan of Piskor stuff and you're a fan of his books and his content and his cartoonist KPA videos, and he's produced a lot of them. And while not all of it is quality, most of it is quality. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to be a fan of that and to put that message out, which is more about the quality of your work and less about whatever message you want to push or whatever types of fascist oppression you want to inflict on people to control their mind and to control their thinking. But that's all I have to say on the matter. What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on this? What on Claire Napier and her trying to grab clout on the grave of Ed Piskor with lies and slander? As well as, what are your thoughts on continuing Ed Piskor's legacy, not just with him, but also with the message of putting quality work out there and following creators with quality work? Let me hear you guys in the comment section. I'm looking forward to it. And we will talk soon. Take care and have a great rest of your day.